Power and strength begin in the mind. This isn't motivational fluff. It's a fundamental truth that determines how you navigate every dangerous situation life throws at you. When you think yourself strong, you become strong. When you enter your mind believing you can handle whatever comes your way, your body follows that mental command. I've faced situations where someone bigger, stronger, or more threatening tried to intimidate me. In those moments, my mind didn't calculate odds or measure physical differences. Instead, it locked into one unwavering thought. You may walk over here and you might even win, but I promise you'll be limping back. You're going to have to earn every inch of that victory. This mindset isn't about being reckless or looking for fights. It's about refusing to place yourself beneath anyone mentally. When you establish that internal boundary, something shifts in how you carry yourself, how you speak, and how others perceive you. But here's the dangerous part many people miss. This strength can become corrupted by ego and insecurity. When you're younger, still figuring out who you are, you might feel compelled to force your opinions down other people's throats. You might want to fight everyone who challenges you. This isn't strength. It's ego running wild, fueled by the insecurity of not knowing your true self. Real strength requires pausing. It demands that you don't let yourself run wild emotionally. True power comes from being grounded in yourself, knowing who you are without needing to prove it to everyone around you. When you do choose to act, you must ensure your actions cannot be mistaken for weakness or uncertainty. This is where the dangerous line exists, between confident action and reactive aggression. The difference lies in your mental foundation. Are you responding from a place of centered strength, or are you reacting from wounded ego? Building this foundation requires repetition and creating healthy mental habits. When challenging situations arise, you want to default to the strong version of yourself, not the reactive, emotional version. You need that stand-your-ground persona readily available, but you also need it to be tactical and strategic. This mental strength becomes your first line of defense in any dangerous situation. Before you ever need physical skills or verbal tactics, your mind must be unshakable. It must be a fortress that cannot be penetrated by intimidation, manipulation, or fear. When others sense this inner strength, they're far less likely to test you in the first place. Your voice carries more power than any weapon you could hold. How you deliver information, what words you choose, and the conviction behind them determines whether people see you as someone to respect or someone to walk over. This is paralinguistics in action, the science of vocal authority that can save your life. Consider this scenario. You need to stop someone from entering a restricted area. You have two choices. You can say, "You can't go into this room with uncertainty and weakness," or you can say, "You can't go into this room with conviction and authority." The words are identical, but the message received is completely different. When you speak with conviction, your tone and pitch align with your words. There's no questioning, no hesitation, no room for negotiation unless you choose to create it. People hear authority in your voice before they process your actual words. This immediate recognition can de-escalate dangerous situations before they begin. But voice alone isn't enough. You must believe in what you're saying and why you're saying it. When I protected the President of the United States, I had the backing of the Secret Service, which gave me confidence. However, that external authority meant nothing without the internal conviction that I belonged in that role and could handle whatever threats emerged. Training builds this conviction. The more adversity you face in controlled environments, the more resilient you become when real conflict appears. If you constantly avoid confrontation, you'll be unprepared when unavoidable conflict finds you. Your voice will betray your inexperience, and dangerous people will sense your vulnerability immediately. Authority isn't about being a jerk or talking down to people. True authority is a powerful influence tactic that works because people naturally defer to those they perceive as experts or leaders. This is why we listen to doctors, respect law enforcement, and follow financial advisors. The uniform, title, or credentials signal authority before they ever speak. You can establish this same authority through body posture, voice control, speech patterns, and how you present yourself. When you master these elements, people are significantly less likely to test you or try to take advantage of you. From the moment you meet someone, you're setting the tone for every interaction that follows. A weak introduction invites disrespect. A confident, authoritative introduction establishes boundaries and expectations. This isn't about intimidation. It's about clear communication of your value and capabilities. The dangerous mistake many people make is being passive. Passive behavior builds internal pressure until you eventually explode inappropriately. Instead, establish authority early and maintain it consistently. When you present yourself as someone who commands respect, most people will give it to you automatically. True strength isn't about fighting everyone who challenges you. It's about being tactical and strategic when conflict becomes unavoidable. The most dangerous approach to conflict is letting your emotions drive your responses. When someone betrays you, insults you, or tries to provoke you, your immediate reaction can either establish your strength or expose your weaknesses. I have parts of my personality that want to come out swinging when someone crosses me. That aggressive response feels natural and justified. But I've learned to control that impulse because responding in the most obvious way rarely achieves the best outcome. Instead, I channel that energy into strategic action. When someone tries to harm me or get in my way, I don't lower myself to their level. I don't call names or engage in petty behavior, even though every fiber of my being might want to. Instead, I find the right way, the best way, the strategic way to address the situation. Not necessarily to hurt them, but to get them out of my path and prevent future problems. This approach requires incredible self-control, especially when you're dealing with someone who's actively trying to provoke you. The key is having multiple response options available, so you're not just reacting emotionally. You can escalate if necessary, de-escalate when appropriate, or remove yourself entirely from the situation. Sometimes the strongest response is complete withdrawal. When I can't maintain composure, I go silent and remove myself from the situation. If someone consistently proves they're not worth engaging with, I minimize my interaction with them. I'll handle them through email, have my manager deal with them, or find other ways to limit direct contact. The dangerous trap many people fall into is mimicking others when they escalate. Someone raises their voice, so you raise yours. Someone becomes aggressive, so you match their aggression. This pattern destroys your strategic advantage and puts you on their level instead of maintaining your higher ground. Recognizing your own escalation patterns is crucial. Do you yell? Does your tone become harsh? Do you say things you later regret? Understanding your danger zones allows you to catch yourself before you cross lines you can't uncross. Real strategic thinking means considering the long-term consequences of your actions. What seems like the perfect comeback in the moment might create bigger problems later. What feels like justified retaliation might actually give your opponent ammunition to use against you. The goal isn't to avoid all conflict, it's to engage in conflict on your terms with your objectives in mind, using methods that serve your long-term interests. Sometimes that means fighting back hard, sometimes it means strategic withdrawal. Sometimes it means finding creative solutions that neutralize the threat without direct confrontation. When you master strategic conflict resolution, you become far more dangerous to those who would harm you, precisely because you're not predictable or easily provoked. There are two personality types that pose significant dangers to your safety and well-being. People who use justification to excuse terrible behavior, and those consumed by self-righteousness. Understanding these personas can help you identify threats before they escalate into dangerous situations. Justification is perhaps the more immediately dangerous of the two. Through years of conducting interviews and polygraphs, I've learned that people who commit horrible acts almost always justify their behavior to themselves. We had a saying, any person can do anything at any given moment in time, given the opportunity, because they can justify it to themselves. Someone punches another person and justifies it by saying, "He shoved me first." Someone destroys property and claims, "They deserved it for what they did to me." Someone pursues revenge and explains, "She betrayed me, so I had every right to go after her." This justification becomes a dangerous psychological permission slip for escalating behavior. The terrifying truth is that justification works both ways. When someone decides to harm you, they will find a way to justify it in their mind. That person who seems to have attacked you out of nowhere has actually spent time convincing themselves that you deserved whatever they did to you. In their mind, they're completely justified. This is why you can't always predict who might become dangerous. That coworker who seems frustrated, that neighbor who feels wronged, that ex-partner who believes they were treated unfairly, any of them might justify taking action against you if they convince themselves you deserve it. Self-righteousness presents a different but equally dangerous threat. This is the holier-than-thou mentality where someone believes they're superior to you morally, intellectually, or spiritually. When someone says, "I'm really going to pray for you because you need it," they're not showing compassion. They're being condescending and positioning themselves as closer to whatever higher power they believe in. Self-righteous people become dangerous because they believe their superiority gives them the right to judge, punish, or correct others. Their rigidity prevents them from seeing other perspectives, and they often feel justified in taking extreme actions to prove their point or enforce their beliefs. Both personality types share a common thread. They don't see other people as equals deserving of respect and consideration. They view others as objects to be manipulated, controlled, or punished based on their own internal justification systems. Pay attention to how people treat others, because that treatment will eventually extend to you. If someone gossips about others, treats service workers poorly, or shows disrespect to people they consider beneath them, they will eventually treat you the same way when it serves their purposes. The key to protecting yourself is recognizing these patterns early and maintaining appropriate boundaries. Don't engage in trying to reason with someone who's convinced they're justified in harmful behavior or who believes they're morally superior to you. Instead, limit your exposure and prepare for the possibility that they might escalate their behavior. The moment you meet someone, you're either establishing yourself as an authority or signaling that you're someone who can be easily manipulated. This initial impression becomes the foundation for every interaction that follows, and in dangerous situations, it can mean the difference between being respected and being targeted. Authority establishment begins before you ever speak. Your body posture, the way you carry yourself, and the confidence in your movements all communicate whether you're someone who commands respect or someone who can be pushed around. People make these assessments within seconds of meeting you. When I worked in interview rooms with criminals, I knew they were sizing me up the moment they saw me. Some would look at me and think, "This is going to be an easy day because this person won't be able to handle me." I had to control that perception from the very first moment of contact. The opening line of any important interaction should never be improvised. Whether it's a job interview, a business meeting, or a potentially dangerous encounter, that first sentence sets the tone for everything that follows. This opening should be rehearsed and delivered with complete conviction. Consider the difference between, "Hi, I'm Evie, nice to meet you," and "Hi, I'm Special Agent Pomperanis, nice to meet you." Come with me. The second version immediately establishes authority and lets the other person know they're dealing with someone who has backing, training, and the confidence to take control of the situation. Authority doesn't mean being aggressive or condescending. True authority is calm, confident, and controlled. It's about projecting competence and capability rather than trying to intimidate through volume or posturing. When you establish real authority, people naturally defer to your leadership. The dangerous alternative to authority is passivity. Passive behavior builds internal pressure over time until you eventually explode inappropriately. Instead of setting clear boundaries from the beginning, passive people allow others to take advantage of them until they reach a breaking point and overreact. Environmental factors also play a crucial role in authority establishment. Physical barriers like tables or desks can undermine your ability to connect with and read other people. Standing behind podiums or sitting across from someone with obstacles between you creates psychological distance that works against building rapport and exercising influence. When you need to establish authority, eliminate physical barriers whenever possible. Move around tables, step away from podiums, and position yourself where you can see and be seen clearly. This openness paradoxically increases your authority because it shows confidence and removes the defensive posturing that weaker people rely on. Your voice, word choice, and speaking pace all contribute to authority establishment. Speak with conviction, choose your words carefully, and avoid filler words that undermine your message. Every word should have weight and purpose. The goal isn't to intimidate or dominate others unnecessarily. It's to ensure that when authority is needed, when someone is testing your boundaries or potentially threatening your safety, you have already established yourself as someone who commands respect and isn't an easy target. In our current culture, people believe they need to verbalize every thought that enters their head. This approach destroys the power of your words and makes you vulnerable in dangerous situations. Verbal economics is the practice of treating your words like currency, choosing them thoughtfully and understanding that the more powerful and impactful your words, the more value they carry. The concept comes from understanding that not every idea deserves to be spoken. When you spew out everything you're thinking, you're not putting weight into your words. You're devaluing your own communication and training others to ignore most of what you say because it lacks substance. Think of your words as money. The more powerful and impactful the words, the more money you're putting down. This currency affects other human beings in either positive or negative ways, and it also determines what you receive back from relationships and interactions. In dangerous situations, verbal economics becomes critical. You don't have time for rambling explanations or uncertain language. Your words need to carry immediate authority and clarity. Every syllable must serve a purpose, and hesitation can be interpreted as weakness by someone looking to exploit you. Before important conversations, write down your opening line and rehearse it until it becomes natural. This preparation ensures you start strong and set the tone you want for the interaction. Whether you're dealing with a potential threat, negotiating a conflict, or establishing boundaries, that opening line often determines the outcome. Priming language allows you to influence how others respond to you. Words like open, cooperative, partnership, and honest predispose people to want to work with you rather than against you. In contrast, aggressive or defensive language immediately puts people on guard and can escalate situations unnecessarily. The rate at which you speak also impacts how others perceive your authority. Speaking too quickly suggests nervousness or lack of confidence. Speaking too slowly can be perceived as condescending. Find the pace that conveys thoughtfulness and control. Paralinguistics, the science of how you say things rather than what you say, can be the difference between being taken seriously and being dismissed. Your tone, pitch, and conviction behind the words often matter more than the actual content. You can't go in there. Delivered with uncertainty invites argument. The same words delivered with conviction end the discussion. Environmental priming works alongside verbal priming to create optimal conditions for communication. Open spaces, comfortable seating arrangements, and the removal of physical barriers all contribute to more productive interactions. The most dangerous verbal habit is engaging with people when they're trying to escalate conflicts. When someone raises their voice, your instinct might be to match their volume. When they become aggressive, you might feel compelled to respond with equal aggression. This pattern destroys any advantage you might have had and reduces you to their level. Instead, maintain your verbal discipline. Continue speaking with controlled authority while they lose control. This contrast makes their behavior look childish and unstable, while positioning you as the reasonable, mature person in the interaction. Verbal economics isn't about manipulating others. It's about respecting the power of communication and using it responsibly to achieve positive outcomes while protecting yourself from those who would use words as weapons against you. Your physical environment plays a crucial role in both your safety and your ability to influence others effectively. Understanding environmental psychology can prevent dangerous situations and give you significant advantages in any interaction where your security might be at risk. Physical barriers create psychological barriers. When you sit across from someone with a table between you, you're not just creating physical distance, you're establishing an adversarial dynamic that says, us versus them. This positioning makes it harder to build rapport, read body language, and maintain the connection necessary for effective communication. The moment you sit down at a table to do business, everyone straightens up and becomes more formal and guarded. You lose access to the relaxed, open person you were building a relationship with, and instead face someone who's now in defensive mode. This shift can be dangerous because defensive people are less predictable and more likely to make impulsive decisions. When you can't see someone's full body language, you lose critical information about their intentions and emotional state. Tables hide fidgeting, aggressive posturing, weapon concealment, and preparation for sudden movement. In potentially dangerous situations, this visual limitation could prevent you from recognizing warning signs of escalating threat. Removing physical barriers doesn't mean eliminating all distance. The key is finding the optimal space that allows for clear communication while maintaining appropriate safety boundaries. In unknown or potentially dangerous situations, you want enough space to react if someone's behavior changes suddenly. Environmental awareness extends beyond furniture arrangement to include factors like lighting, noise levels, exits, and potential weapons or defensive tools in the area. When entering any new space, immediately identify your exit routes and assess what resources are available if the situation becomes dangerous. Spatial positioning affects power dynamics significantly. Standing while others sit gives you a height advantage that translates to psychological authority. Positioning yourself where you can see the room, while others have their backs to potential threats, demonstrates awareness and control. The principle applies to public spaces as well. Sitting with your back to the wall in restaurants, choosing seats that allow you to observe entry points, and avoiding isolated areas all contribute to your safety, without requiring obvious defensive behaviors that might provoke conflicts. Territory and personal space violations often precede physical aggression. Someone who steps too close, invades your personal space, or tries to corner you physically is testing your boundaries and potentially preparing for escalation. Recognizing these spatial intrusions early allows you to address them before they become dangerous. Your own spatial behavior communicates volumes about your confidence and awareness. Moving with purpose, maintaining good posture, and positioning yourself strategically all signal that you're not an easy target. Predators look for people who seem distracted, unaware, or unable to defend themselves. Creating optimal environments for important conversations means eliminating distractions, ensuring comfort for all parties, and removing anything that might trigger defensive responses. This preparation can prevent misunderstandings that might escalate into dangerous conflicts. Environmental mastery isn't about paranoia, it's about awareness. When you understand how physical spaces affect human behavior, you can use that knowledge to stay safer and communicate more effectively in any situation. When you're under pressure, your natural tendency is to focus inward, thinking about your nervousness, your performance, your potential failure. This self-focused attention actually increases pressure and reduces your effectiveness in dangerous situations. The solution is counterintuitive. Shift your focus entirely to the other person and the outcome you want to achieve. Pressure management begins with preparation. A significant portion of pressure comes from feeling unprepared or out of control. When you know you might face a challenging situation, eliminate every variable you can control beforehand. This preparation creates confidence columns that support you when uncontrollable elements emerge. Think of pressure management like building columns of confidence. If you're nervous about a potentially dangerous confrontation, you can't control how the other person will react. But you can control how you're dressed, how prepared you are, how well rested you feel, and how clearly you've thought through your objectives. Each controlled element becomes a column supporting your overall confidence. When facing threats or high-pressure situations, your outfit, grooming, and physical preparation should make you feel strong and capable. These seemingly superficial elements actually provide psychological armor that affects how you carry yourself and how others perceive you. When you feel confident in your appearance and preparation, that confidence translates to your behavior. The key mindset shift is moving from "what will happen to me" to "what does this situation require?" When you focus on the other person's needs, motivations, or potential reactions, you stop obsessing over your own anxiety and start thinking strategically about solutions and responses. This external focus serves multiple purposes. First, it reduces your internal pressure by giving your mind something productive to analyze instead of your own fears. Second, it provides valuable information about the threat you're facing and how to respond effectively. Third, it demonstrates confidence and competence to the other person. Physical preparation parallels mental preparation. In high-risk situations, ensure your clothing allows for movement. Your shoes enable running or fighting if necessary, and any long hair is secured so it can't be grabbed. These preparations should become automatic habits rather than conscious decisions made under pressure. Breathing and voice control become critical under pressure. Shallow breathing and a shaky voice immediately signal fear and vulnerability to anyone evaluating whether you're an easy target. Practice controlled breathing and speaking with authority even when your adrenaline is elevated. Pressure often reveals weaknesses in your preparation or mindset. Instead of viewing pressure as purely negative, use it as diagnostic information. What specifically is causing your anxiety? Which elements feel out of control? These insights help you prepare better for future situations. The goal isn't to eliminate all pressure. Some pressure sharpens performance and keeps you alert to real dangers. The goal is to prevent pressure from overwhelming your ability to think clearly and respond effectively. When pressure serves you, rather than controlling you, it becomes a valuable tool for staying safe. Remember that most people under pressure become self-focused and predictable. When you maintain external focus and strategic thinking under pressure, you gain significant advantages over those who are controlled by their emotional reactions. This advantage can be decisive in dangerous situations where clear thinking determines outcomes. Practice pressure management in low-stakes situations so the skills become automatic when stakes are high. The more you experience controlled pressure and practice effective responses, the more resilient you become when facing real threats. The most dangerous mindset you can adopt is believing that life happens to you, rather than recognizing that you're an active participant in creating your outcomes. When you blame other people for your problems, you think you're protecting yourself, but you're actually giving away your power and making yourself more vulnerable to future threats and manipulation. Blame becomes a default pattern that ultimately works against you. When nothing is ever your fault and everything is always someone else's responsibility, you lose the ability to change your circumstances. You become dependent on others to fix problems, improve situations, or protect you from dangers you could have avoided yourself. Taking ownership doesn't mean accepting blame for things genuinely outside your control. It means acknowledging your role in the decisions that led to your current situation and recognizing that you have the power to make different choices moving forward. This mindset shift transforms you from victim to active participant in your own safety and success. The agency that trained me had a clear policy. They didn't want to hear excuses. When you made a mistake, you owned it, fixed it, and moved forward. This approach builds confidence, because you're constantly proving to yourself that you can handle problems and improve your performance. You become the captain of your own ship. When you consistently blame others, you're telling yourself that other people have control over your life while you have none. This belief system makes you more insecure and less confident because you're constantly at the mercy of external forces. It also makes you an attractive target for predators who look for people who don't believe in their own agency. Consider how this applies to personal safety. If you're constantly being taken advantage of by others, the empowering question isn't, why do people keep doing this to me? But rather, what am I doing or not doing that makes people think they can treat me this way? This shift puts the power back in your hands to change the pattern. Victimology research shows that people who are victimized once often become victims multiple times. This isn't because they deserve it, but because certain behaviors, choices, and mindsets make people more vulnerable to predators. Understanding these patterns allows you to break the cycle by changing the factors within your control. The distinction between taking ownership and victim blaming is crucial. Taking ownership is empowering because it gives you agency to change your situation. Victim blaming is destructive because it assumes people deserve bad treatment. The goal is empowerment, not self-punishment. Authority figures often gain your compliance by taking advantage of your tendency to defer to their expertise without questioning their recommendations. When doctors prescribe medications, when financial advisors suggest investments, when anyone in a position of authority gives you advice, you maintain responsibility for what you choose to do with that information. This doesn't mean rejecting all expert advice, but it does mean maintaining awareness that you're making choices about what to accept, what to question, and what to research further. Your body, your life, your decisions, even when you're following someone else's recommendations. The most powerful realization is understanding that you have choices, even in difficult situations. You can choose how to respond to threats, how to prepare for dangers, how to position yourself for better outcomes. When you truly internalize this agency, you become far more formidable and far less vulnerable. Taking ownership creates a positive feedback loop. The more you take responsibility for your outcomes, the more you prove to yourself that you can influence those outcomes. This growing confidence makes you less attractive to predators and more capable of handling genuine threats when they arise. Predators don't choose their targets randomly. They assess potential victims based on specific criteria that signal vulnerability, and understanding these selection patterns can dramatically reduce your risk of becoming a target. The research on how violent offenders choose their victims reveals crucial information that every person should know for their safety. When researchers asked violent offenders how they selected their targets, the answers were remarkably consistent. They looked for people who appeared distracted, were on their phones, showed poor body posture, seemed squeamish or easily intimidated, and generally looked like they would go down easy. Predators don't want fair fights. They want guaranteed victories with minimal resistance. Your body language broadcasts your confidence level and situational awareness to everyone around you. Slouched posture, distracted behavior, nervous fidgeting, and avoiding eye contact all signal that you're not paying attention to potential threats and might not be prepared to defend yourself effectively. The key insight is that predators are fundamentally bullies looking for easy targets. They specifically avoid people who look alert, confident, and capable of putting up significant resistance. This means that simply carrying yourself with awareness and confidence eliminates you from consideration by most opportunistic predators. Children are frequently victimized precisely because they're the least able to protect themselves. This same principle applies to adults. Predators target those who appear least capable of effective resistance. Age, size, and physical strength matter, but awareness and confidence often matter more. Victimology research reveals that people who experience one victimization often experience multiple victimizations. This pattern occurs because certain lifestyle choices, behaviors, and mindsets create ongoing vulnerability. The empowering aspect of this research is that changing these factors can break the pattern. If you find yourself constantly being taken advantage of, manipulated, or targeted by aggressive people, the crucial question becomes, what am I communicating that makes people think they can treat me this way? This isn't about self-blame. It's about identifying changeable factors that affect how others perceive and approach you. Situational awareness forms your first line of defense against predators. This means staying alert to your environment, avoiding behaviors that make you appear distracted or vulnerable, and trusting your instincts when something feels wrong. Your subconscious often detects threats before your conscious mind processes them. Fighting back, speaking up, and walking away are all valid responses to threatening behavior. And having these options clearly available in your mind prevents the paralysis that predators count on. When someone tests your boundaries, your immediate response teaches them how they can expect to treat you in the future. The goal isn't to become paranoid or see threats everywhere, but to maintain the level of awareness and confidence that naturally deters most predators from selecting you as a target. Most predators are looking for victims, not adversaries. Lifestyle choices significantly impact your risk level. Where you go, when you go there, how much you drink, who you associate with, and how you prepare for potentially risky situations all influence your vulnerability. This isn't about living in fear, it's about making informed decisions that reduce unnecessary risks. Environmental awareness includes understanding which locations and situations increase risk, having exit strategies planned, and positioning yourself advantageously in social settings. These preparations should become natural habits rather than conscious fear responses. The most important realization is that you have significantly more control over your safety than most people recognize. By understanding how predators think and what they look for in victims, you can systematically eliminate the factors that make you attractive to them while building the confidence and awareness that provide natural protection. When you embody the characteristics that predators avoid, alertness, confidence, preparedness, and clear boundaries, you not only protect yourself, but also model strength that can inspire others to develop their own protective capabilities.